All right, so let's start learning about functional programming today. And so far, we have learned what is procedural programming. We also learned what is object-oriented programming in terms of managing objects, creating classes, creating objects, and all that. But today, we are going to learn something that is opposite of object-oriented programming. So in functional programming, what happens is you create some functions, okay? And the way it works is it takes some input and it gives you back some output, and that's about it. So it doesn't want to maintain data, the related methods, and all that encapsulated together. It just want to do one thing. For example, it takes in the input and it gives you an output, so it doesn't maintain any state changes. So functional programming is there in multiple languages like Haskell. Okay, if you know Haskell and Lisp, so there is a lot of people that use those languages. So one of the advantages of this functional programming are basically, uh, modularity, much more modularity, and composability, and you can easily debug and you can easily test this. So Python can be used in three ways. One is procedural, second one is object oriented, and third one is this functional programming. Okay. Now, some of the concepts around this functional programming are taken from other languages also. Okay. Uh, so one of the advantages is like modularity. What happens is the practical benefit of this is basically the functional programming forces you to break your problem into the smaller pieces, and in turn it becomes more modular, and you write a very small function that does only one thing rather than a very large function that does a lot of things in the function. So small functions which do only specific work, and you can chain those functions, right? The output of one, take it and put it to another. So for example, I will tell you about map, I will tell you about reduce, I will tell you about filter. Okay. So before going into the actual concepts, okay, some of the foundational principles of functional programming, we'll talk about something known as iterators. Okay. So in Python and the most in some of the interviews also, so they concentrate on this. Okay. So what are iterators? So iterator is basically an object in Python, okay, so which represents a stream of data. A list is a collection of data, but it is not a stream of data, right? So what it returns is only one element at a time. Assume there is a data type. When you actually call it, it will only give you one item at a time rather than giving you whole list at a time. So you will save a lot of memory in like in the RAM. You will save a lot of data. um, so how does this work basically internally? So as we learned in Python, right, in the object oriented programming, we have something known as magic methods, right? So any iterator must have a method called underscore next. Okay, for example, I will define a sample class. Okay, and it should have this next. So what it should do basically, it should always give you the next element in your whatever code that you have to give. Okay, so the next has to be there any given moment. So we are not going to implement right now a separate sample. We are going to take an inbuilt class called lists. We already know what is a list. List is an class itself in Python, okay, which already has this next method defined. So we understood an iterator is an object, it which will give a stream of data, and whenever you do next of that particular iterator, it will only give one item at a time, and after reaching three items in the list, it will throw a special exception called stop iteration error. Okay. Now these iterators are being used everywhere. For example, in the for loop, you want to do a for loop, by default internally it will take care of, making it like iterator. But for loop will not raise this error. Okay, the stop iteration error will be handled automatically in the for code. Now I have created a list here called L, and it takes 1, 2, 3. There are 3 values inside this list. Okay, and I created manually an object of iter. Okay, there is a iter function that I have called, which internally has got a method called dunder iter. Just a minute, let me show you. Python help of list. If you do this, so if you see, there is, just a minute, let me show you. There is a functionality that is implemented called double underscore iter double underscore, that is dunder iter. I'm just calling this method like you learned, right? When you did plus, basically it called dunder add in your class definition. Here it is calling iter. When I call iter, it is basically representing an iterator. So when I do next, 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 it keeps giving me the next value in your list. Okay. For example, Python iterators.py. When I do this, so first time in line number 11, when I did print next of it, that is next of iterator, so it will go to the first element and gives you the first value. Similarly, second value and third value. Now, if I ask for the fourth time, right, what happens is basically it throws you an error and say that there are no more elements, so you stop iterate. You do the stop iterating. Okay, so the error is stop iteration error. So you need to keep in mind an iterator is something that with the stream of data, like you need to keep asking it. Okay, so the other way you can do is simply do a for loop. Okay, simply do a for loop. What did I do here? Instead of calling next, next, next method, I am going to delegate the work of calling next to for loop. Okay, so I'm going to create a iterator, and whenever I do for loop, it's going to print the number. Now if you see, previously it had raised an error, now again it printed 1, 2, 3, so it did not throw any error. So for loop internally takes care of that stop iteration error. Okay, so iterators are very common, and the for loop expects an iterator while it's doing a loop. Okay, now keep in mind that while we are doing 1, 2, 3, it's always going to be in a forward direction. There is no like I want to start from back. You cannot do that. Okay, so next what happens is iterators will give, where are these iterators used? Okay, so some examples I will tell you. One of the example is basically generator expressions and list comprehensions. So list comprehensions are used heavily, okay, in Python. For example, I will give you, I'm going to introduce you to list comprehensions. So list comprehensions is a compact way of writing a for loop and doing some expression. Okay. Uh, for example, I will create a set of numbers. Okay. To create a set of numbers, you can use an internal method called range. Okay. If you do range of 10, it will give you numbers from 0 to 9. If you do range of 11, it gives you values from 0 to 10. But if you want to start from 1 and you want to end at 11, it gives you numbers from 1 to 10. Okay. So I'm going to take this range operator, the range method, and I'm going to write here for num in range of 1 to 11. See here, previously used to write for loop and used to do colon and goes to the next line. Instead of that, in the beginning itself, you write whatever you want to do. For example, you want to find square of two numbers. Now when I do print of nums, right? So let me comment this out. Let me also comment the above ones just to give you an idea. So now I have written a code which basically prints the square of numbers, and you observe I have written everything in one line itself now, right? So it is giving you square of numbers between 1 to 10. quite easy. Okay, if even if you want to do cube of these numbers, you can easily do. Okay, so list comprehensions are very easy, and the list comprehension always give you a list in written. So that means there is a more memory. You're observing here, the whole list is in the memory. But what if I want to, get only one item at a time? Okay, so at that time I can do one thing. I can do nums2. I'm going to create nums2 variable, and I'm going to do a generator expressions similar to list comprehensions. Same thing. Okay, for num in range of 1 to 11, but I'm giving a normal brackets rather than a list. Okay, now when I do print num2, what happens is nums2, it gives you a generator object. We will learn about what is generator next. Okay, but the advantage here is that it will only give one number at a time. Now let me do list. I'll just convert to show the output. Okay, what happened? Something is wrong. So there is a different output, so it added like 3 times, but that's fine. So a list, the generator expression is basically an expression uh, which will give you a generator. For example, let me give a couple of more examples here. The difference between a list comprehension and a generator expression is a list comprehension will always returns you a list that we already seen here, the numbers it gave you. But whereas generator expression will return always a iterator. Okay, this will always return. We also saw the output above that it gave you a generator object. Okay, now these iterators and list comprehensions are used heavily. There is also additional thing called dictionary comprehension that you can have a look at. Okay, so these are the constructs which you can use in your functional programming. Rather than writing a long code in Python, long lines of code, you basically can compact into a smaller versions. Okay, now as I was talking before, you won't generally use iterators directly in your code. You will use something called as generators. Generators are basically easy way to create iterators. Okay, so it is very easy to create iterators. For example, I want to create an iterator which will give only one number at a time till any number of values that I want. Okay, for example, if you see this example called generate underscore nums, okay, it is taking a number, and till that number it is basically doing a for loop, but instead of doing return, it is doing a new word called yield. Okay, what is the meaning of yield here? If you remember, in a function, if you have a return, immediately the function execution stops and it returns the value whichever is there, and it kills all the variables which were there previously in the function. But in the generator, keep in mind that it maintains the history of what was the last time it was called. So it keeps those values instead of returning it. Okay, for example, when I called generate underscore nums and I pass 3, what happens is first time the value is 0, because the range of, if I give n, it starts from 0 till 3. The first time value of num is 0. Okay, now it will give 0 to me, and when I do next of gen, it gives you 0. When I do next of gen again, it gives you 1. When I do next of gen, it gives you 2. But when I do again next of gen, what happens is it basically throws you a stop iteration error. Still we are going to interact with iterators only, but we are trying to make things much easier to create iterators. So we are using a concept called generators. So generators are a special class of functions which help you to create iterators very easily, and you use a special keyword called yield. Okay, now instead of doing next, what I can do is basically I can do a for loop. It's quite simple, and it will not raise an error for me, and I can do generate terms, And if I pass 3, so it should print me what? uh, Python generators. So it will print 0, 1, 2. That's the expected output, right? So first time when I do, it will give me 0. So generators are very important. You use everywhere. For example, some of the functions internally in Python always return you generators rather than a list. Okay. For example, range. The example here itself is range. Range will never give you a list. Range will give a range object, which will always give one element at a time. Okay. So that's the importance learnings for today is iterators and generators. Along with that, we also learned something known as list comprehensions. So syntax might be very tricky for initial learners, but once you know the exact syntax, it becomes much easier. Okay. Now, similar to this, using these generators and iterators, there are a lot of interesting functions that we will learn now. Okay, which will help you to code much faster. Okay, so let's start learning. The first we want to learn a function called map. Okay, so we already know if we have set of numbers, if we want to loop through and find the square of numbers, what we will do is we will do a normal for loop, and we will also just do a square. Like, you can use list comprehension, you can use a normal for loop to do it. Okay, so a map is a function. Similarly, a map is a function. If you pass a list of values, if you pass a list of values, for every value that is there, it is going to call a function called upper. I have written an upper function here, right? I have written an upper function here. So for every element that is there in an iterable, that is a list here, it takes that element, passes to the function called upper, and whatever is returned here, I'm just converting it to a list, and it will give you an output of upper words. For example, okay, Python extra.py, right? So if you observe the first output, it is giving you the capitals of sentence and Python. Now, yesterday there was a question, where would we use a lambda function, right? So I will convert the same code that I have right now into a lambda function code as well. So let's try to do that. Okay, I'm going to create a map function here. Map, the syntax is, the first thing you need to pass is an function. Here I had function name was upper here, so I passed upper. But map, I will create a lambda function. A lambda function which takes one argument and converts that to a uppercase. What is the second argument for this particular function? A list of values, right? Now, whatever value that map is returning, so let me just print and show you what does it return. Okay, so it returns me a map object. So I don't want a map object, right? So I just want to print a list of values. So I'm going to convert into a list. Same thing, I'm going to convert into a list. Okay, so observe that there is no difference between this output and the first output. First output had a function, second output had got a lambda function inside it. So you wrote, instead of this particular code, you just wrote in a single line, you included in a map, and it created you an output. Quite easy, right? Quite interesting. So a map function takes element from a list every time, or a tuple or whatever, and pass it to a function that you specify. Whatever is the result, it gives you a, you can convert it to a list and use it. Okay, so that's a map function. Okay, so let me comment this out. So any question here? So similar to map, right? We will also learn something about filter. You know, what is filter? A filter function is basically similar to map, right? Similar to map, we want to, instead of doing for every element, we want to run some functionality. We want to filter the values rather than running something. For example, I have range of 10. That means I have values from 0 to 9. Now for every element I want to check whether a number is even or odd. If it is even, only then put it in the result, otherwise don't put it in the result. So filter means this function, whatever you call, if it returns an zero, if it returns a true, only that value will get added to the output. That is the meaning of filter. The syntax is very simple. The filter method takes the first argument as a function name, second one as a iterator, the iterable data structure like list or a tuple. Okay. Now the output as expected, it will only give you a filter object. So I'm converting into a list. Now if I print it, if I print this evens, it will only return me the even values. If you observe here, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. I can also do it through a list comprehension. I can also do it through a list comprehension or generator expression. You can do all that. Okay. So I can also do filter using lambda function. So I will comment this out. I will show you with lambda function. It's quite simple, right? So I will do a filter function. I will do lambda, right? Lambda syntax. I'm going to take the first argument. What I need to do? If the first argument x mod 2 equal to 0, only then it will return whether it is true or false. That's it. Now I pass range of 10 to it. Okay. Now I convert this list. Still the output should be same, right? Still the output should be same, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So instead of writing this function, I converted this to a lambda function. Quite easy, right? So you could also write as this code as part of the list comprehension, okay, that you can actually do. Right. So this is about filter. Now some more functions we are going to talk. The next function that I'm going to talk is called enumerate. The enumerate function, basically if you pass values, right? If you pass values like 1, 2, 3, 1 comma 2 comma 3. Now this will return basically the index comma value, index comma value, index comma value. Enumerate means it will give you an index and that particular value. Okay, that is called enumerate. Now let me show you example here. I have a list here with values called subject, verb, and object. I'm going to enumerate it. Okay, now every time I print this item, it basically prints the tuple with index and its value. For example, here the index is 0 and value is subject. Index is 1, value is verb. Index is 2 and value is object. So these will be used in some of the use cases. For example, you want to do a quick for loop and you want to get both indexes as well as values. At that time you will use enumerate rather than you create your own index, write a for loop, write a while loop, do all that. So enumerate will give you that advantage. So similar to this, we have a couple more functionalities. There are a lot more. I'm going to introduce to much more used things. Now we already know when we learned about list, right? So there was a list where we were able to do a sorting. There was a method called sort, right, which does the alphabetical sorting of your collection. But there is an more powerful method in Python called sorted, which is inbuilt. Okay, sorted will take always an iterable like a list or whatever, list or tuple, and you can easily sort the values and it will give you a sorted result. And the key that is there, the second arguments, okay, you can provide, if you are providing a dictionary, right, you can specifically say which key wise you want to do a sorting. Okay, and also you can sort in a descending order or ascending order based on a parameter called reverse. For example, let's take, I'm going to introduce a new module called random. There is a random module in Python to generate random numbers. For example, I am having a random.sample method here. It will give you 8 values from it. Okay, it will give you 8 random values from it, from 0 to 10,000. Now I have got a random values. Now, when I do sorted for the first time, this is a random values. Okay. Now, when I do sorted, it will always do in an ascending order. But when I say reverse is equal to true, it will do a reverse sorting. Quite simple, right? So you are using a sorted method on an iterable. You can do either ascending or descending. So you can do in one line. You see, you can do whole sort thing in one line. That's the beauty of using functional programming. Now you have this sorted, right? So let's also learn about additional thing called reduce, or any or all before that. Okay. Now any and all are the functions, functional programming, which is built-in function. Okay. So basically any will tell you, any will only return, okay, any one of them has got a true value in an iterable. Okay. All will return true if only all the elements are true values. For example, what should be the output of any here? Any element, if any one of the element in this true is, it will become true. So the any value will always return true. Whereas all, if you see the output of this, let me print it. Let me print this. Okay, let me print all also. So all should give you false because not all of them are true. That is why it is giving you true. Python extra.py. So if you see, the any returned true, whereas all returned false. Okay, quite simple. Now these are used very heavily in some of the libraries that people have written. Okay. Now I'm going to introduce you to two functionalities. Okay, two modules. One module is called operator module. See, operator module is a module in Python which gives you inbuilt functionalities to do addition, subtraction, like concatenation, count of, equal, floor division, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Any operator that you can think of, it is already there as part of this operator module. Okay. And there is also a module called functools. Okay. The functools is a module. Uh, let me show you. Functools is a module which gives you a lot of additional data structures which are not there by default. For example, named tuple, okay, that is, and partial, and some of the functionalities called reduce, and the frozen set. We also learned about sets, right? And you can do a lot more things using functools. But today I'm going to introduce you a function called reduce. Okay. So I'm going to import a function from here called reduce. What is the job of this function? The job of this function, given a set of values, it will try to do some operation, whatever operation you say, and it will try to come to a single value. That is called a reduce function. Now here what I'm trying to do, I have numbers and I'm passing to a functionality called operator.add. So it will do addition. So this will always take only two values. Now how the addition happens, that means how the reduce happens. Basically, for the first time, the reduce will take the first two elements and pass it to the function we say. So what should be the addition here? 1 plus 2 is 3, and whatever has returned, it will keep in the memory and take the next element and pass it to operator.add. So 3 plus 3 is 6. It will keep 6 in the memory and take the next element. So it will pass it to operator.add. So it becomes 6 plus 4 is 10. Now it will keep 10 in the memory, take the next element and pass 10 and 5. So operator.add will have 10 plus 5 is 15. So the reduce function will return 15 out of this. So if you see the output, it is 15. So this is what is a reduce function. Okay. So you understood about map, filter, reduce, any, all, sorted, enumerate. Similarly, there are some more functions that you can explore, like zip. Zip is a function. You can combine together multiple things, right? And there are some more things that we can learn called decorators that we will learn. You already used in the course, like add class method, add static method, right? So those are called decorators that we will learn next session. Yeah, I think this is about functional programming, and if you get a chance to use this functionalities that are available to you, and you should know that these are available so that you can use them wisely and write the code in much more compact way and more readable way.